And welcome back to Worldwide Wolves, a Timberwolves podcast brought to you by me, Cooper Carlson, and my co-host Jake Painting. Worldwide, because I'm here from Pittsburgh, and Jake all the way from Australia, and Anthony Edwards all the way from China. Jake, how you doing? How you doing today?
Yeah, good. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have the Anthony Edwards tour, in Australia, so I don't get to see Ant with a funny mask on or, speaking a foreign language. But yeah, I'm good. I'm excited. We're not too far away from actually getting some basketball again. I think it's just over a month until preseason starts, so we are creeping closer.
Yeah, we got some things we want to cover today. A little Tim Connelly news. Go over some ESPN stuff where they think the Wolves are going to fall off. Do we agree or disagree? We'll go through that. And then just some interest in a couple of free agents that are now out there. So that'll be fun. Anyways, hit the like button, subscribe button, the comment button, all the buttons. And also give us ratings on iTunes and Spotify, right? That's where we're at.
Yes, we're on both of those, and yeah, obviously we prefer you to watch on YouTube, but I know that's not feasible for everybody. I'm a big podcast listener as well, so if you are listening on podcast, thank you, and yeah, drop us a rating. Make sure it's 5 stars. If it's not,
Right.
we don't like criticism, so just
Right.
keep 5 stars.
Good stuff. All right, yeah, let's just get right into it here. Tim Connelly, in his contract, he had an opt-out clause where he could either, maybe opt out this year and then go for a big extension or go somewhere else, or opt into 2 more years. And he chose to opt into 2 years. I don't know how it works if he could have extended by opting out, but either way, he's here for the next 2 years. And this is news, but to me, it's also like I think he's going to be here for the very, very long-term future, kind of. I mean, they just signed a CEO for 10 years. I also think Tim Connelly is in the loop about I'm pretty much here to stay, I would assume, at least through like the Anthony Edwards era. Nice to see, good stuff, and I've really enjoyed his work here with the Wolves, but continuity with the Wolves is seeming to extend further than just the roster, and we did a whole episode on continuity, was it 2 weeks ago now? So yeah, continuity, it extends to the head coach, hopefully now ownership, now that that's settled, the CEO for 10 years, the Pobo, like the Wolves, and I mean this in the most complimentary way, have become a rather almost boring organization, So
Yeah.
I'm happy with this.
Yeah, well, we had so many years where it wasn't boring in the worst way. There was always another problem looming around the corner. So it's nice to have some boringness and it's nice to have some continuity. I guess with Conley, we weren't sure whether he was maybe going to opt out or if he was due for a new contract. Like I think it was a little bit up in the air as to what his future was in terms of next season. But it's good to hear that the opt out clause has been and gone, and then he's going to be here for another 2 years minimum. And yeah, you've got the CEO news, which is 10 years of a CEO. So it does seem like they are getting their ducks in a row to really keep this train rolling. And I'm excited about that. Like you said, boring is good. And we both think maybe they could have done something or done, in free agency or in that trade period. But I don't think it's a death knell that they're staying what they are, and then we're going to see this team kind of try and build on what they did last season.
For sure. And with Connolly, like something that's important here now that new ownership has taken over, they were the ones that essentially brought in Connolly. It was not a Glenn Taylor thing. This was A-Rod Laurie hire, and that's still sticking around here. A lot of the roster or just the parts around the roster we're seeing are forming around this new ownership. Yeah, I mean, who knows about Chris Finch's long-term future, but I mean, he seems to have the vote of confidence of, first of all, the star of the entire team, the Pobo, the ownership. So at least for now, things seem to be staying very, very the same. And yeah, I'm very cool with that. And Tim Connelly, his moves, it's hard to come up with a series of moves that like I really disagree with. Like there's small things, sure, but all of the trades that he's made pretty much, I'm like, sweet. Like at this point, the Carl for Julius and Dante looks solid with that first round pick. So
yeah,
I mean, I've got really no complaints about the moves he's made, and maybe that's a boring take, but I can't fake it. I've really liked what he's done here, and it's very interesting, and just around Minnesota sports as a whole to have a GM. There's a different GM, yeah, but
yeah.
whatever.
Matt Lloyd is a GM,
He had a
who's
nice
also
series of
really
podcasts here this last week with the Score North and stuff. So good
yeah,
stuff.
and he seems really cool. Like
Yeah.
he's same as Tim Connolly. They just seem like guys who can connect both, obviously in the wider front office landscape with other front offices, but also with the players, with the coaches, with the owners. Like they do seem like pretty flexible people in terms of just being able to connect to the players, which I think is important. You don't want obviously you don't want these guys meddling too much in with the coaching and playing side of things, but you also want front office people who players can feel like they can go and talk to, or that they can connect with, or that they can relate to. So I think Connelly and Lloyd are both really good in that sense, and Connelly's been known for that since his Denver days in terms of being able to connect with his players and to really shape the roster with a family type of atmosphere, which I think again is important for this franchise since they were so stilted and fractured for so long, where the front office and the ownership just seemed like a completely different entity to the playing group. So that is another way that this continuity will work. And I just think that with Conley, he seems to understand what this team needs. And I'm really excited to see how he builds the second version of this team. Like, I think there's no doubt that he's built a successful version of this team right now. The Gobert trade worked. The Conley trade was obviously insanely good. Every other move that he's made around the margins have always been pretty good. And even the ones that haven't really worked haven't been damaging really to the team. You know, I think the Rob Dillingham deal might be still up in the air. We'll see how that pans out. But I'm excited to see what he does with the second version. Like, can he move off Gobert and Conley eventually? And can he, what's he going to do with Julius Randle? How is this all going to work when they get into the second iteration of this Wolves timeline? So I think that's his next job will be, obviously the Nickeil Alexander-Walker's gone. Can you hit a home run with Terrence Shannon Jr. and Jalen Clark? Mike Conley will probably be gone after this season, I would assume. Can you hit a home run with Rob Dillingham? How are you going to figure out the Naz Reid and Julius Randle kind of conundrum? And all of that's still on the table, but that doesn't have to be solved this season, I don't think. I think this is the last hurrah with this version, and they're still very much in that, contenderish, fringe contender bracket, and that's exciting. Like I don't want to look too far into the future because there is a season coming up where all of these guys are going to be here, and it's going to be exciting to see what the team can do with that. But I'm also intrigued to see where we go from there, and kind of, what the Terrence Shannon Juniors and Rob Dillinghams and Johan Berenjays of the world can do for this team going forward.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting point, just like that he's built this team, but already the next iteration is almost due pretty much after this season. And it kind of leads us into our next topic here, just going over an ESPN article that came out, just kind of going over projected risers and fallers for this season based on what they're projected for. And the Timberwolves fall into the falling short category. This is by Tim Bontemps at ESPN, but the forecast for the Wolves this year is to win 51 games and lose 31. But Bontemps thinks they're going to fall short, saying basically that the team lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker and it's requiring youngsters like Terrence Shannon Jr., Jalen Clark to pick up a much bigger load, while leaning heavily on Conley and Rudy. And just on that part initially, like the Nickeil leaving and then the youngsters coming in and then those two older guys having to step it up, it's something you and I have really kind of nailed down, those two points specifically. And as the offseason continues on and we just get more and more little nuggets of just how the, people around this roster feel about the roster, I think it is, like you said, a one last hurrah type thing here where they are very aware that Gobert and Conley are on their way out. And they also, I think, feel that Terrence Shannon and Jalen Clark can definitely step in for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So to me, those points are worrying, but they're not, at this point, they're not worrying enough for me to not think they can be about as good as last season. Again, I don't think they're going to maybe rise. My point is kind of, I think they're going to be about exactly as they were last season. The Western Conference Finals would not surprise me. I don't think they're going to go further. If they lose in the first round, it'd be because they play a better team than the Lakers or Warriors. Like,
yeah,
they got a really, really fortunate matchup last year. So on those 2 points, I agree they are important, but it's not something that's unexpected, and I don't think it's going to hinder them from like playoffs or even. I think they're going to for sure miss the play in a good way, like top 6 seed, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's just so hard to predict with the West because there's so many good teams. You have to play a good team pretty much every single night. What is the Utah Jazz the only team that is predicted to be actually bad? Like I think Portland are like a fun team that I wouldn't want to play, 4 times a year. I wouldn't pencil pen in a win there. Dallas are going to be pretty good. They got flagged. They got AD now. Kyrie will probably come back at some point. The Spurs have Wemby, growing into this monster. De'Aaron Fox will be settled there. Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle. Like this is a tough Western Conference. So it's difficult to predict how many wins a team would get. But I think the Wolves do have a settled team and a settled team that has proven they can win 45 to 55 games in any given year. So it's hard to predict that they wouldn't do that again. I think ESPN here has them at 51 and 31, which is, I think, a pretty reasonable.
I think that's like what they're projected for, and he's saying they're going to go under that.
Right. Okay. So I mean, they won 49 last season. I would probably be surprised if they were any dramatically worse than last season. Like losing Nikhil Alexander-Walker is damaging, but I mean, we both are pretty high on Terrence Shannon Jr., Jalen Clark, Rob Dillingham. These guys need to play.
Yeah.
So, and I do think, for whatever flaws I think he has, or other people think he has, I think a thing that Chris Finch does is he makes things work in the end. And sometimes it can take a little bit of time, but he is a coach who figures things out as the season goes on, and figures things out kind of in bigger moments. Like they're definitely a playoff team. I'm pretty confident as long as they're out of the plane, that this team can win a playoff series, because I just think they're built to win playoff series. They just have players who perform better in the playoffs. Their game style, not running a lot of sets, kind of slowing the game down, winning on defense. Like that's the type of game style that wins in the playoffs. So I think as long as they can be in that top 6, I'd be pretty confident, that they can beat anyone. Like they're not better than OKC. They're probably not better than Denver. But then after that, I think they could probably beat any other team in the playoff series. So I just think this season, I still think it's about just getting there. I thought it was last season too. If you can get out of the play-in, if you can get into that top 6, you can give yourself a chance to win playoff series. So I don't think you need to win 58 games for it to be a successful season, but you do need to figure some things out along the way, just like they did last season. And I think this season will be, can you figure out the rotation? Can you lengthen it? Can you get these young guys playing a role that makes sense? And then as always, can you get Anthony Edwards to thrive in his environment? Can you get Julius Randle to thrive? Can you keep Connelly and Gobert healthy, which is a big part of this article, that they a little bit skeptical that those two things will happen. But I just think this team has the depth now where maybe you can give Connelly 15 games off throughout the season. Maybe you can give Rudy a game off here and there and kind of try and keep him fresher for the playoffs. And in general, maybe you can just figure some things out from last season that they never got around to figuring out, just because the season came and gone before they could. So if you're talking about continuity, that's what I think is probably number one on my list in terms of benefits. Is there's probably still some things there that they thought, we didn't really get to that. We didn't really get to seeing Julius like this, or we didn't get to, extending Ant's game out into this region.
Dante never got comfortable.
Yeah, Dante never got comfortable. But next season, everyone's here from training camp. We already know the flaws of this roster. We know what works, what doesn't work. And now we can actually build a game plan to accentuate the strengths and kind of, hide the weaknesses a little bit of this team.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the article, it's falling, projected to fall from like 51 wins. And like, sure, I could see that, but not necessarily because the Wolves are worse. A little bit because they're a volatile team, but also because the West is so good. So like, yes and no to this whole thing. Like the other points here are they gave Naz Reid $25 million per year, and he can't make up for the deficiencies for when Gobert's off the floor. But they're just completely different players anyway. Like the Wolves don't play the same style like whatsoever when Naz Reid's at the 5. It's like it's not like they're sending him out and saying, all right, you got to be Rudy Gobert here. And they never have. So like it's true that he's not going to be able to match that defensively, but the Wolves aren't counting on that. It's a complete just come off the bench offensive firepower,
Well, that's the
complete change of
thing. That's the
style.
thing that it doesn't mention is that you lose,
Yep.
like you lose the anchor in that back line of Gobert and the stability of having a good defense all the time. But the Wolves are also an insanely good offensive team when Gobert's off the court and Naz Reid's on the court, and that works, both ways. Both that you don't have Gobert out there and that you do have Naz Reid out there. So I think this, like you said, this team plays two very distinct styles depending on whether Gobert's out there or not. And another year of continuity should be another year that they kind of hone those two different skill sets. And I think a team with Gobert needs that. I don't think it's wise to just put another diet version of Gobert behind him. I think it is a smart thing to say, look, when Gobert's not out there, we are going to be worse defensively. It doesn't matter who we replace him with. We are going to see a drop off defensively. So instead of trying to have, I think I've said like a Bismack Biyombo out there behind him, why don't we just put Naz Reid, change the way we play, and try and use those non-Gobert minutes to really blow teams out of the water offensively? And I think again that's a thing that feels like it should get better with continuity and with another season of doing it. It definitely did in the Cat Gobert seasons where they found that those non-Gobert minutes really got less damaging as they played together more often. So I'm expecting that to happen this season. I'm expecting Naz Reid to have a really good season actually. So and I think that's part of that.
Yeah, in the article also it goes over that Dillingham, he's still a big question mark, and it says that the Wolves don't really have replacements for this Conley Gobert thing, maybe this year or after, but like that I disagree. That I think is just looking at the roster and saying that you don't like Rob Dillingham and Johan Berenjay because they drafted
Yeah.
them to be the replacements to those exact players.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, Berenjay is someone just listening to interviews this week. They are far more excited for than I even thought. Like they really, really love him. So
Mhm.
I I agree that this year it may be tough to replace Rudy, but again, like when he's not on the floor, they play different anyway, and the play style when Rudy's off the floor kind of reflects what these guys are better at anyways. Like Rudy really holds down that style of play that, defensively anyway. So I'm not exactly too concerned with all of this laid out here. Injuries, yeah, I mean, if there's injuries to the roster, it's gonna hurt them and they'll fall. But
Yeah.
I'm not like projecting Rudy Gobert to have an injury riddled season. He never really has. Like, I mean, he's dealt
And
with
and
stuff
if you're talking
certainly.
about this
Yeah,
article, it's a little bit hypocritical to say, look,
yeah,
like these guys might get injured, and then have the Clippers in the five to exceed expectations, and not mention anything about injuries there. All the Golden State Warriors who have, their 1-2 puncher, 37 years old each, 36,
yeah. The
37.
Wolves
Like,
1-2 punch isn't Gobert Conley, like
yeah, and they are important, and that is an
for
issue with
sure.
this roster is that they do still lean heavily, like it says here, on Conley and Gobert. I think grouping those together is a little wrong. Like I think they lean a lot more on Gobert than Conley. Um, but even that, like I said, like with Randall and with Reed on the court and Gobert off the court, they're a +3 net rating, and with go Reed off the court and Gobert on the court, they're a +2.7. So like this team's pretty similar, whether whether they're playing big or playing small, but it just works different. Like the defensive rating is pretty bad when Gobert's off. The offensive rating is pretty bad when he's on. So they do just play those two styles, like we said. But I just think it's weird to say, to pin all your hopes of this team on Conley and Gobert, especially last season. We saw Conley starting to get phased out a little bit more. We've seen that Anthony Edwards has the ball in his hands a ton, pretty much playing point guard. We expect Dante DiVincenzo to have a better season. We expect these guys like Terrence Shannon and Jalen Clark to have
Dillingham,
better
yeah, I
seasons.
mean,
Yeah,
they say
Dillingham,
well,
like,
he's a question mark, but which is true, but I mean, naturally he's going to be better than he was last year. Like,
yeah, and he's going to bring different things to the team. Like, I don't think the team's going to be as calm and controlled as when Conley's on the court, but I do think they're going to be able to get into the paint way more. I think Ant would be, will thrive more playing off Dillingham than he does playing off Conley. So it's just, I understand that there is skepticism because at the end of the day, we're Timberwolves fans and we see this team for through that lens. So it is harder for someone kind of on the outside of that to say, well, Dillingham's going to be really good and Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to be really good because they don't see it as much as we do, and I guess they don't believe in it as much as we do because it's natural for us to believe in our teams. So yeah, that is a question mark, but I don't know. I think that they're more of a team that seems like they're going to meet expectations if their expectation is
Yeah.
51 wins. Like that seems right to me. That around 50 wins, 49 last season. If they won 54, I wouldn't be surprised. If they won 47, I wouldn't be surprised. So I think I wouldn't expect them to have this drop off, which they're kind of predicting here. And I do think the logic is a little flimsy at some points in this article.
Yeah, to me, the Wolves are almost one of the most predictable teams this year, just
Yeah.
because, as the word of this podcast, continuity, but it is. I mean, they really are running it back, and we know what we're going to be seeing here. So unless there is injuries, which you can't account for, especially with guys that haven't exactly been super injury prone, unlike the Clippers and maybe the Warriors a little bit. But I mean, yeah, it's I get it. I get where they're coming from, but as a Wolves fan, I think we're unbiased. Like we've been pretty critical of this team, so I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think it's fair to say they're going to meet expectations. I don't think they're going to win 60. I don't think they're going to win 58, 54, or 47, like you said. In that range, I would almost guarantee it for sure. And I guess if they go
Yeah.
to 47, this article is correct. But like the talent on the team, I don't think is going to dramatically fall short in any sort of way.
Yeah, and I really think they need to get off to a good start. I think this team does kind of run on momentum. We saw it last season where they just couldn't get themselves out of that early season funk, and they really couldn't find their footing as they were trying to get up the hill of the season. And then when they did find their footing, it was almost like they were running downhill, and
Right.
they
Don't start eight
really
and 10 again.
yeah. If they start 8-10 again, I can see a 43 win season because the West is really tough and they do struggle to fix themselves on the run, kind of to fix the plane while it's flying. So, and if you are going to cite continuity as the off-season goal, then I think the main thing there is you need us to have a good start to the season
Yeah.
because all of these
While
games
other
matter.
teams are, trying to find their
Yeah,
footing.
yeah. While the Clippers are trying to, do their thing, trying to integrate their guys.
Rockets
Well,
trying to get KD in there. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's a must. I will be worried if they come out looking flat, but I'm pretty excited to see. Like we've said before, I don't think that this season is comparable to the season where they ran it back and won 56 or 57 games or whatever. Like just because Conley and Gobert are older and are less important on the team right now, and they have Julius Randle and not Cat, so it's a different kind of thing. But I'm excited to see Chris Finch get a chance to just have a plan, work on it over the offseason. Like I'm sure, he's been thinking about it every goddamn day, since the season ended, since the season ended, and then be able to implement it without having the roster just get completely shook from underneath him. So, and I think that mainly is like the stuff we've talked about. Like I want to see the Reed and Randall minutes get a little bit better defensively with a bit better, structure and a bit more knowledge of playing together. I want to see Jaden, get this new-ish kind of role or just have more trust in the coaching staff, more trust from the coaching staff to kind of do his thing a little bit more on the ball. Like I want to see Ant, like is Ant just going to keep improving? Because
Right. Like we
some point,
projected
Ant's
them to be like top 3 MVP. Like
yeah, at some point Ant is going to level off. Just naturally in his career, because if he just kept improving like this every season, he'd be the best player ever. So when is he going to start leveling off? How is he going to jump up this season? What's going to get better? We see him come back as a better player every single season. So really, I mean, a lot of it just depends on that. Like we like to talk about the peripheral things because it's kind of boring just saying,
right.
Anthony Edwards is going to be really good. But
Well, the peripherals depend. It's 47 or 52 wins with the peripherals, but
yeah,
Anthony Edwards gets them to 47. As a starter.
exactly. Yeah. And like if Anthony Edwards is the third best player in the league, then all of a sudden that 51 kind of feels like it's, that 45 win floor feels like it might be 52 wins as a floor if Ant is like way better again. So
It was his
um,
name wasn't even mentioned in the art, or I guess it was a little bit, like just saying that he's part of a flexible roster, but like
yeah, and
he's pretty important here.
yeah, I think it's kind of it does get overlooked. Like I said, like you look at the Warriors forecast and they're talking about how the evolution of Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler partnership. Like, what about the evolution of the Anthony Edwards Julius Randle partnership? Like, because that's really important for this team. What about the evolution of Anthony Edwards and Naz Reid, or Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels? If any of these guys grow again, take another step up, then all of a sudden this team is, way better, and their floor rises a lot. So, there's just I'm excited to watch basketball. I'm excited to see this team again and actually get a feel for what they're doing, because right now we're right in that depths of the season where everyone's just kind of guessing on what could happen, and I want to see it.
Yeah, and all respect to Tim Bontemps here, but we think you're wrong, pal. But yeah, we could switch over to our third topic of the day if you're ready for that.
Yep.
All right, all right. So this one's interesting because it starts with Malik Beasley, old friend. I don't really get this. Maybe you can talk me into it a little bit more, but the rumors were circulating this. You're already shaking your head. The rumors were circulating this week with Malik Beasley being, a free agent now and is able to sign. The Knicks are a team. I think the Warriors were in there, and the Wolves are rumored. Um, I don't get it at all with Dante DiVincenzo. Like, unless there's a trade. Was it you that tweeted something out? I saw something that was like, unless the Wolves are going to trade
Yeah,
like
no,
Dante in a package.
yeah, no,
Like,
I didn't. I don't really get the Beasley stuff. I understand why they'd touch base on it. Like,
sure.
he's was probably the second or third best shooter in the league last season. He's going to be cheaper because of all the stuff that's happened with him over the summer. And they have the non-taxpayer mid-level stills. I think it's 5.7. That they can use. So it makes sense to touch base. It doesn't make sense really any other way. Like I think Beasley could do a job on this team for sure, but they do have DiVincenzo playing those minutes that you suspect that Beasley would get. They do have to still give those guys we've talked about minutes in TJ and Rob and Jalen Clark. Like, they need to find, and they're all in that 1 or 2 position where Beasley's obviously a 2, but he's not a 3. So he kind of limits you in terms of roster, lineup flexibility. And Tim Connelly's also traded him twice. So, like, I don't know how much interest Beasley would have if the money was the same as other teams. So, it's a little bit of a weird one. But I think it's probably just a good GM or a good Pobo doing his due diligence and just,
Hoping the agent doesn't leak that he's checking in with Malik Beasley or something, and there it is. It's
Yeah.
on the news. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I want my front office guys to check in on everyone. Anyone that could, and I think they have done that this season. We know they were talking to Dame, and they were doing. Their name has been floated in pretty much every conversation of any kind of biggish free agent or trade partner. So that's what I want our front office to do.
Yeah. I mean, if it was like he's going to come in and be the 11th guy, Bryn Forbes role might play if you need shooting. That okay, sure, but like he was, like you said, a top 3 shooter. He's gonna get an 8th guy role.
I think he was the runner-up in 6th Man of the Year vote.
Yeah, like he's gonna get
like,
so he deserves an actual role, and that it just doesn't fit with the Wolves with where their roster's at. I mean, he's a good player. It'd be cool if they had that need. They just, it's one of the, I think, weirdest fits I've seen for a free agent like all off season. So yeah, doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna say that.
Yeah. So the other one that they're rumored on again, I think we've touched on him a couple times, but Michael I forgot his first name. Mike Brogdon. Michael.
Malcolm.
Malcolm. It's like
now I couldn't think. I was like, it definitely starts with M.
It's like, it's not Michael, but that's all I've got. Anyways, Malcolm Brogdon is rumored to come to the Wolves. And to me, again, like, if he wants to come in and be the 11th man and play very situationally, if Rob Dillingham, say, really is not good, okay, sure, like super insurance, but I've got no interest in Brogdon as like the legitimate backup point guard of any sort, or being like the 7th guy. I don't think the Wolves have any interest in that. Otherwise, they probably would have done it by now. So at this point, it's probably just a super insurance type thing if they do bring him in. Yeah, I think they're going to try to rely on Dillingham here, their former 9th overall pick. So
yeah,
we'll see, but I don't predict.
We've spoken about that, haven't we? And it's just like, It doesn't really make sense to. I mean, I understand the logic in that you want another steady hand. Brogdon's been in the league for a long time, been valuable in the league for a long time, and there is a chance that Rob just isn't good next season, or that Conley gets hurt for 35 games, or that Conley is really not good and it gets to the point where he's unplayable as well, just if he falls off again due to his age. But I think that you can cross kind of that bridge at the time with a point guard, that you sign. That's
Yeah,
what they're going to, I think they're going to keep this roster spot open, or like they have two at the moment, so they're going to keep one open. You can cross that bridge with Ant as point guard. You can cross that bridge with more Dante. Like these aren't perfect options, but I think blocking the pathway for Dillingham is something that Tim Conley really wants to avoid. And they need to. Like they need to see what they have with Dillingham, and they are going to be teething issues. There's going to be nights where he's really not good. There's going to be nights maybe where he doesn't even get on the court if Finch doesn't trust him defensively. But I just think that they can cover it well enough. Like we all want, if there was a starting level point guard out there, a really good point guard that was available, I think all of us would jump on the opportunity for this team to get that point guard. But I don't think they need to be blocking, their former lottery picks pathway with a guy who really wasn't very good last season.
yeah.
Like,
Brogdon adds like how many wins to this team if they bring him in?
yeah, I mean, if I don't think he's better than Conley, and we've been quick to bash Conley
Right. If
kind
we
of
did,
all.
we would say bring him in probably.
Yeah, like I think he's younger, and I think at this point, a lot of people have soured on Conley, probably us included, just because it is hard. They played him too much last season, and he wasn't good, and he was terrible in the playoffs. But we're like Brogdon, shot 28% from three last season. He played 24 games. He's played 39 games the season before. Like this is a perennially injured kind of,
It's a
I guess
name that people know.
yeah, fringe level starter. And he won Six Man of the Year 3
Right.
seasons ago also. So it's like he's a good player. He's definitely a good player, but he hasn't been very good in his last 2 seasons. He's been injured in his last 2 seasons. If they brought him in, I think like I don't know. I think if they brought him in and said he's the starter and Rob's the backup, and we're not, and Conley is the break glass in case of emergency guy, like that would make more sense to me, because I think Brogdon could still play minutes like that if he wasn't injured.
Sure.
But I just
Okay.
don't think that the gap between him and Conley is big enough to make that huge.
And it kind of
rash
messes with this
decision.
whole continuity
Yeah,
thing. There's not a
exactly.
gap
Yeah,
that's big enough between
yeah,
the two of them. Like even if he is better, it's just I don't. It's
yeah. There's
especially
a
at this
lot.
point, like it's not worth it to
Yeah,
me.
that's a very 2K thing to say and do.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's not
He's
feasible in
one
terms of
overall better, but it doesn't
yeah,
fit the
in terms of a
team.
locker room. Like that I'm sure that probably wouldn't go down well in the locker room, and I'm sure that it would be a little bit toxic in the locker room to bring in someone and say Rob can't play again this season, because they all like Rob. Rob wants to play, and Rob might not be
They
good.
took him ninth overall. Like you gotta play the guy.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I don't want to sit here and act like that there's no chance Rob is going to fail next season, or there's no chance that he will have bad games. Like we both think there's a chance that,
I think it's pretty
this
rough.
won't, yeah, that it won't work, but they need to let it not work before they go and, replace it.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, yeah. So I mean, Brogdon, it's not like he's a bad player. He'd be fine on this roster. It just is
Mm-hmm.
not really feasible or something I want to see that badly at all. So yeah,
And also a thing that I think doesn't get mentioned, because we just look at the players in isolation, is that like they want to play faster, and that's been mentioned in every Finch interview or Matt Lloyd or anyone who
right.
talks about this team next season say they want to play faster. And I think one of their avenues to playing faster is going to be through Dillingham. Like that is a guy I think they
Certainly.
drafted to play faster, because this is not a last season problem. This is a last 5 seasons problem. And Brogdon isn't that guy. Brogdon is very much in the Conley kind of slow, methodical, get you into your offense, make threes, do things in that kind of way. Whereas I think they want to add a little bit more chaos into this recipe. And I think they need to.
Mm-hmm.
And chaos can work in a bad way, obviously, but chaos can also work in a really good way. And I think this team needs a little bit more chaos with Rob and TJ coming in.
Agreed. So on those two free agents, Beasley, just I don't see any pathway. Brogdon, sure, like vet minimum or something, whatever. But I don't, it's not any sort of necessity. Yeah, I guess that's all I've got on those guys. Anything else on
So
your mind tonight?
who do you think do you think it's going to just be like a Bones that they sign? Like, because they do have to sign someone.
Yeah, and like a week ago or whenever we last talked, we kind of spoke as if Bones was on the rock. 2 weeks ago, we spoke
Yeah,
as if like
yeah.
Bones was signed because that was the report, but there's nothing formal. So I feel like
Hmm.
there's almost an agreement with Bones, like we're gonna bring you in unless something else happened, or maybe he's
Yeah,
even like waiting till camp in case someone gets hurt. But like,
yeah. And that, yeah, like you said, they might be. Does there at any point something weird could happen in the league, and
yeah,
a player could fall into your laps, and
Bones could jump
not.
from 11th man to 7th man on a roster if an injury comes down.
Yeah, and not every team has a roster spot open. So to be the team that does, someone gets traded or if someone gets waived or if there's a trade, that involves a third guy who you think could be a really
Mm,
good part of this roster and they don't end up, staying with the team they get traded to. Like it is good to be there kind of waiting in the wings with a roster spot. But then I think, like you said, they've probably got a handshake agreement with Bones where if that doesn't happen and when we get to training camp in a few weeks, like you're going to have that spot. We're just
show
going,
up.
but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. You can have that spot, but until then, we're going to keep the powder dry just in case, we do something does pop up and we can
Yeah.
make a move somewhere.
Beneficial for both sides there, I think. So yeah, I like that. I do, if I had to guess, I would put like 90% chance of Bones Highland there. So
Hmm.
yeah, and I'm a fan of that, honestly. He's a little bit of that chaos we were just mentioning, so why not?
Yeah, and he's a guy who definitely doesn't take minutes off anyone. I can see why people don't like Bones as a player. Like I don't think he's necessarily like an impactful NBA player, but I think like we've been saying, the point here is to give the guys who already have minutes and to have people on the roster behind them who aren't agitating for more minutes and who aren't unhappy that they're not a starter or that they're not playing 26 minutes a night. Like Brogdon probably deserves to play 20 minutes a night somewhere.
Yeah,
And it doesn't seem feasible that this Wolves team would be willing to offer him that.
completely agree. And if they were, I would start to question Mr. Connelly over there, who we just praised.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all right, I guess that's everything we had today for topics, unless you've got something else to throw at me here.
Not really. Like I said, I'm just excited for this thing to get started. I don't know
Yeah,
exactly when training camp gets going, but yeah, preseason
next
is
month for sure.
yeah, the first preseason game is about 35 days away or something. So I'm guessing it'll be in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Um,
Whenever
and then
Andy's
things,
back from China, yeah, it's all him.
yeah, yeah, yes, and then things really kind of kick into gear. So I'm excited, man. I'm over the off season. The
Me
first
too.
part of the off season is fun and I don't have to do as much work and we still get the draft and free agency and summer league and stuff. And then I get to September, and we're not there yet, but I'm bored. I'm ready
Yeah,
for this to be back.
still not even at September. Oh god.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, same with me. I'm ready for basketball. Any basketball. So WNBA is fun, but we cover the Wolves on this podcast. So let's
Yeah. And it's almost football season over there as well. So,
yes, it
uh,
is.
I guess that's good for you guys.
Watch some college football today. I usually don't care about college football at all, but it's all I've got. So
Yeah, I tried to watch the Vikings preseason game the other day. It was on TV.
terrible place to start for
And
football.
I'm
Terrible.
sorry, guys. I just cannot get. I won't. It's too slow for me. I don't understand the rules enough.
That's
I'm
why
sure
it's
if I.
so heavy in the gambling scene, though, because if you're gambling on or if you've got fantasy, it's electric.
Yeah,
Every play.
yeah. I couldn't get into it. I'm gonna try again this season for all the
Regular
people who.
season.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to watch the Vikings and just to watch football in general, but I don't have much hope, guys. Like,
Worldwide Vikings coming
yeah,
to you
worldwide
next.
Vikings. Yep, I don't know any player except Justin Jefferson,
There you go.
but
Can you gritty? You know the gritty?
I know it. I can't do it. I don't think you want to see me
No, I
try.
don't. I don't think I do. The Malik Beasley shimmy. Should we
No, I don't see. I don't know if I could handle him shimmying. That I think nothing got me angrier last season than watching him shimmy on the Wolves.
I hate it. I like when Giannis started, pushing him
Yeah,
around for it. Oh, that was good.
yeah,
And he got really mad. Dude, you're shimmying on every three you make. Like, what do you expect?
yeah. Front runner is a overused term these days, but Malik Beasley is definitely a front runner.
Agreed. So on that quick shot at Malik Beasley, we're gonna get out
Yeah.
of here. Just had to throw it in there. We were both holding back on him, but just kidding.
Yeah, well, if you listen to the end of the podcast, you get the spicy stuff, you know.
Right, exactly. You get After Dark Unleashed or something. Anyways, oh god. All right, that's it. Should we drag it out till his 40 minutes? Just kidding. We're gonna. Just kidding. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.